Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At-Home Dad Network. My name is Brock.
My name is Danny.
And we are here to talk about life as stay-at-home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight. Got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet. Cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey, everybody. Well, I'm back. I know it's been 2 weeks and I'm back. I'm really excited to be back, though.
I did my best.
You did great.
My best. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It just doesn't, I couldn't do it.
It's all good. It was good, man. The guests that you
fun.
had on and everything, and just the way that you did your promos, it was awesome. It all worked out really well, and sending it over to me to, put the final touches on it and get it published, everything worked very smoothly, which made me feel good for like times when I need to step away and deal with all the crazy work stuff or whatever. So
I got you, man. I got you. I
He's
can talk for hours. I don't
He's a
even need a
good team.
guest.
You don't. No, you really don't.
Just sit here and talk.
That's okay. That's okay too.
What's he talking about now? Oh, I don't know, man. He rabbit trailed a few minutes ago and I don't know where he is. But did you know that mouth guards were thought to keep you from getting a concussion?
Oh,
I mean, it would be something like that. It would definitely,
yeah.
it'd be, wait, what were we talking about? Oh, I don't know.
I think someone forgot to tell Jamar Chase that on Sunday, because he definitely caught a football with his mouth guard in his hand at the same time while running down the field. And I was like, wait, isn't that supposed to be in your mouth? I don't know. Mm-hmm. He like dropped it as he was like catching the football. And I'm just like, yeah, that's not going to feel good.
Well, I don't even remember how that came up. I was using it as a random thing, but there was something I read recently that people for the longest time thought you really wore a mouth guard to protect you from getting a concussion if you get hit in the chin or in the face, so that it dampens the amount of damage you get. Whereas I always thought it's to keep my teeth in my mouth.
Well, I mean, I'd say there's definitely
someone's going to hit me in the face.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, I guess that makes sense. If you're a boxer and you're wearing a mouth guard, you get an uppercut or a shot to like the jaw. Like having that mouth guard in there is definitely probably going to keep you from concussing versus, I mean, if you get in the head or something, that's a little different.
Evidently, it's not true.
Huh.
That's what I'm saying. I read that that's what it was believed for a long time, and that's not actually a belief. And I'm like, I never heard that belief. But again, I've never been a boxer or, never played hockey. We talked about that earlier.
We did.
And everything that I've done, it was always just for your teeth. So anyway, but again, but that's the kind of thing that I would talk to myself about if I was the only person on the podcast. So,
and since you mentioned the hockey thing, I will just put this little bit in there. We were talking about what took place during a hockey game on the 27th of November between two brothers. So that's all I'm going to say. But these two brothers were on opposite teams, so you kind of understand. Go watch the clip. I'll make sure I'll try to find it and put it in the show notes, actually, because it's great, especially the reactions from the dad and the grandpa and the grandma that are there watching these two boys that they've seen grow up do what they do. But no, man, you had some great guests. I really enjoyed editing and listening to the shows all the way through. I mean, I normally do when I edit most of the times, but they were great, especially your first guest you had on, which was Peter, right? Pete,
Pete Armstrong.
Yeah, his talk on just coping with stressful situations during the holidays was great to listen to, especially right
for
before.
Last minute.
Yeah, that too.
Hey man,
it was great.
I got a fever. Can you get a guest?
I know.
Sure. Let me find it. Actually, Pete was the first person I asked because we just talked, I wanted to get him in for it. So go ahead.
I'm glad, because I felt like trash that day, so that was not fun. And then you had Keith on. And man, I'd say I really enjoyed listening. Like, I knew Keith was a zookeeper, but to hear sort of like the background behind kind of how that all happened, I actually, in the middle of editing, like went out to the living room, and Corey was out there doing some work, and I was like, listen to this. Like, Keith was doing this, and I was like, and this is how he got into it. And the fact that he stated that he wanted to do marine biology and then like did some research and realized like that maybe isn't the lane to go down, and then started looking into zoology and zookeeping. For me, I was like, this is awesome, because that's what Hezekiah always says he wants to do, is he wants to be a marine biologist. And I'm like, but he's really good at talking like someone else.
And it's from his mom.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah,
but no, but it's, so like he knows his stuff, and to be somebody that could present, that kind of style. And two, the other thing, we both said was like, we're in a prime location for him to basically, start doing some things at the Cincinnati Zoo when he gets a little bit older. We've talked with some of the younger staff members during the summer that are there, and I think you have to be 14, I believe, is when you can start working there. And just being a person who's like in an exhibit and being able to like, kind of spew different pieces of information out if guests ask and that kind of thing. And Hezekiah, he was one of those kids. He just stood there right beside the guy and the kid and just asked him all kinds of questions and really just grilled him. It was great. And he was like, you ought to think about doing this when you get older. I was just like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to hear you say to my child. That's perfect.
and he will try it later. And
yes,
it's really an interesting, I really like talking to Keith too, because of what he started when he was 8 with, pigs and cows. And I'm like, I don't know Keith that well. Right. But when I look at him, he looks like a GQ guy that drinks a lot of expensive coffee. I mean, he just does. And I don't mean that in a negative.
It's all good. No,
it's kind of negative. Yeah. It's not that. No, I'm kidding. Keith, I love you, but he doesn't
compliment.
look like a farmer. Right. He just never looked to me like a farmer. And
I don't know. He's tall and lanky. I mean, he's kind of got that.
Yeah, but he could be a ball player. That doesn't mean that's not farmer,
I know.
And to think of him like taking a slapstick to a pig and getting it into and I'm like, this blows my mind. I mean, the tiger thing was enough, but wait, you've been doing this since you were a child?
Dude, the flea bath thing was hilarious, by the way.
Can you imagine taking a tiger and forcibly sticking it into a
that was the other thing I told Corey. I was like, so they talked about how they flea bath these tigers. And I was like, it's one of those deals where I don't typically I don't typically hear Danny like cuss too much on the podcast, but like the first words out of his mouth were like, "Oh shit!" Like, yep, that. I was like, that was my first words too.
I can't imagine what. Yeah. But again, at that time when it first came out, that was probably like, "Oh, look at the new technology we have. We can now give them a flea bath. This is amazing."
No kidding.
It's a little dangerous. I'm like, this is a death machine. This creature is an apex predator.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't care. It's like your house cat who really gives no craps. It will do whatever it wants to do, right?
Yep.
But it's 900 pounds or something, and it can leap over like an elephant. I mean, it's just like, what in the world?
It's time for your forceful baptism.
Yep. I'll make you. And it's not even just water. It's just chemicals. It's a flea dip. That's the worst idea I could imagine. I get it. But again, I'm glad I was not a zookeeper at that time. And I'm definitely not cut out to give giant death machines flea baths. That's
But it was a very entertaining podcast episode.
Oh, good. I'm glad you liked listening to it. Definitely.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I mean, and Keith's a really fun guy, and
he is.
He does really well when it comes to, like you're saying, like his presentation on things. Like he's really good.
He's a presenter.
And that's what, I think a lot of members, if they don't know him, are going to see over the next year with him coming in and doing different aspects of, presidency. JHG was very similar. He liked to do that kind of stuff, but I think you're going to see that maybe just a tick higher scale with just the way that Keith brings that in to things. So I'm very excited for that. And also too, like, that's great. Like, I'd rather go up I'd rather see the organization and its presentations of people and topics go upwards than go downwards when there's a changing of the guards.
Mhm.
So that's really exciting.
Keith's got a defined trajectory for where he wants to go and where he wants the organization to go. And it's really, it's not like apples and oranges, so to speak, when it comes from compared to JHGs or anything like that. But it's just a new energy to it and that freshness of it all. I actually have, I have to slow Keith down. I just do. He's got so much energy and so much enthusiasm, and he's so professional about it all. And he does things like, hey man, get home.
He's a good juggler.
Wait just a week? Could we just give me a week to kind of grease the wheels here, or get everybody ready for this change or whatever's going on? And it's not been he's not made any big changes or anything like that, but it's just a different way of doing it. And when you're looking at a all volunteer organization of people that all have a full-time job, and this is their side thing that they're doing, it's difficult to keep up with big changes sometimes. So
I will say though, people seem to be doing a really good job, like matching a lot of his energy. As far as things go. I mean, I know, him taking over Home Dad Con in Milwaukee last year and running with that with Greg and doing those things, like there was definitely like this smooth operation going on, and then coming out of that and going right into St. Louis, it's like there really wasn't a breath. Like it was like an immediate, we're going into this, and it wasn't anything of like, oh my God, we got to do this. It was just like, all right, this just feels normal to just continue the conversation. We've already got grease on the wheels. Let's just keep the train moving down the track. And it's been really impressive to just kind of see how all those different things are being implemented. So it's great that we have that. And like I said, I'm really excited for the next year. And it seems like we've got lots of interest from things outside coming in, knocking on the door for, getting involved with the organization for things too.
It's because of a concerted effort over the last year or two or three of people that have been the chair that are building momentum. And that's really, if you're running an annual convention and we're going to be running this every year, we might as well get those things set up. I mean, if we could do it in the same city every year, well, we'd be golden. I mean, it would be so easy to get long-term contracts with people. And, even with just a hotel, say, hey, we're going to bring our convention to, say, St. Louis every year for the next 5 years. We'd like a better discount. We are a nonprofit, so we want to see where we can, if we give you a 5-year contract, we'll be there every year. Can we knock off whatever amount of money? Right. And that momentum though still transfers when you're looking at the development of the committees, the planning committee, and making it an actual, like you have. And I don't know how you inherited it, to be honest, but being more of an actual formed professional almost committee doing a thing, like you said, rather than, hey, this year, who's going to do it?
Right.
And that's for the longest time. I mean, it's 27 years, right? So we were just a bunch of volunteers just hanging out and saying, hey, you want to have a convention? And now it's literally the career development professional convention that we wanted it to be for years. And we've just had to slowly turn that cruise ship,
Right. Well, I think we've been able to, I think over the past few years, we've been able to really get volunteers that have the know-how and the background to be able to come alongside and not say like, hey, I'm going to take this over, but hey, like, let me just impart some knowledge, wisdom, insight into some things. Like, I don't want reins. Please don't hand them to me. You're fine holding on to them. I have no problem, passing you notes and letting you know this, that, and the other. And I think that that's the other thing is like you have somebody who's super passionate, like, I want to do this. Like, you know, when I took Cincinnati, I was like, I want to do this so bad. And then to be able to, you know, lean on different guys. Like, I mean, Brian Frampton and I talked, Gerard and I talked, you know, there were like all these different guys who was like, all right, like, you know, tell me what you know. And then also too, there were guys who from the past conventions that, you know, I could reach out to as well and ask them stuff too. So it was this kind of a concerted effort to get all the information I could to be able to do that. And I think that that's what we're seeing now is this, like, you know, yeah, fine. We got people on the ground that are doing this. Oh, I have this bit of thing. Like, I'd love to be able to, you know, tell you about this or give you this piece of insight. So I think those are the things. Like, I think a lot of times when, you know, we talk about, hey, we need volunteers to step up and do things, like it could be as simple as, let me just give you this like bit of, you know, thing that I learned from when I did this, you know, to help you out in this area. Like, I'm not asking to be on the committee or anything like that. But I do have this bit of knowledge that I can impart. So hopefully that's something that maybe somebody that'll spark something and somebody listening to this and be like, oh yeah, like I could pass that on. Because I think that's important. I think some people they don't realize that they maybe are holding on to that, like that knowledge.
Well, and you don't recognize, well, sometimes we do, of course, know what we know. You know, well, you want to know about this, I'll tell you all about this. But realistically, the experiences that we have in different areas of it, Joshua Burnson, our AV guy for last year and our AV guy for this year, we're going to make him official because, oh my God, he did such a good job.
Yeah.
But just looking out and going, we need somebody to run AV. And again, 5 years ago, it was that's what it was. Who can do it? Why don't you do it? And it wasn't really we didn't have the time. We didn't have the setup or the framework, and we logistically couldn't do that. And we really couldn't even do it up until in the last 3 months, 4 months, in my opinion. We had our volunteer coordinator for, you know, a great position, but we didn't know what to do with them. Yeah. We didn't do anything with them. We was like, okay, you're a volunteer coordinator. Here's all the people that want to volunteer. Yeah. Oh man, that's just not what we needed. And what we've done over the last year, especially, which is because what I'm most familiar with. But as simple as getting a schedule for the convention. I want an app. I want a Home DadCon app, but I don't know how to make that happen, and I'm not going to pay for it, basically. But we came into the convention this year with all of the events of both the pre-convention and the actual convention speakers on a Google Calendar, shared it to all the members that wanted it, right? And basically just said, here's the calendar. And beyond that, Keith had already set up a schedule for the day-to-day of where everybody needs to be and where we have needs of people. And it was fantastic. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is what I would expect from a professional convention. And we're not professionals. You know, but we're doing these things. It's really exciting. It's just years of work.
Definitely.
I think, just kind of paying off.
So. And I want to point one thing out too, just because I want to make sure that this person's not left out in the conversation of AV. And that's the fact that Frank Kuiper was a huge asset as AV for quite a few years. And whether it was that he really enjoyed doing it, or if it was something that he felt just like there's a hole, like I'm just going to get in here, he did it. And he's a big part of what made when I got in there, Orlando and Minneapolis and Cincinnati really kind of tick, because it was, you know, like Josh just kind of came in here recently, and he's doing awesome. He's picking it up or whatever with, you know, where we needed him. But I really am appreciative of the things that Frank did. And he did a great job of really keeping track of a lot of the equipment. Which was huge because we really didn't have like an inventory list of any kind of thing. And so between Frank and Matt Strain, the two of them, like they really worked to kind of get that set up. So it's like, all right, we know what we have. And then also too, like sometimes things, they age out. And especially when it comes to microphones that are on the wrong frequency, you know, Frank did the time to research and realize like, oh, like we legally can't use this. Like we have to upgrade. And, it's that kind of thing that also helps keep us out of trouble as a
Mhm.
non-professional group of people running a professional convention type of deal. So
Mhm.
I just wanted to kind of put that out there that Frank did a lot as well. So I think
Yeah.
he gets missed because he's been busy doing a lot of other things and hasn't really been kind of in the fold for the past couple of years. So, but yeah,
Oh, of course, yeah, and of course we're not leaving anybody behind, but it's just who's active right now
sure,
is kind of who we
yeah.
can be more, But I don't want to try to name all the people that got the
Oh
convention
gosh,
running
no.
for the last couple of years. It's been, but and that's it though. It's getting to the point where we know who's there and who can do what and who wants to do what. And I love that throughout when Keith did it, he was. I mean, I could see him watching the people in the actual committee for planning, the planning committee, and saying, okay, well, this person does this. Would you like to do that? I love doing this. Okay, well, why don't you be in charge of that?
Right.
And it's such a simple management or leadership idea.
And enabling. It's enabling. That's
and it speaks to the things that you're best at.
Yeah.
And that you enjoy, as opposed to, again, and I don't know this is the way it was, but it seems like, back in Raleigh, at least, and from then on, that we just kind of were last minute. Oh yeah, we need this, we need this, we need that. And people would step up and they would do their best job, but it would burn them out.
Yep.
Because they didn't really, I'll do it, but okay, I guess I don't get to go to that breakout I wanted to go to. Or I guess I don't get to see the keynote. I mean, and the things that you give up at a convention that I think, again, we've talked about that previously.
Yeah. But a lot of sacrifice. That's for sure.
Yeah. Just like being a dad.
Yeah, crazy. Exactly. Yeah. Speaking of which, you mentioned the word burnout. I am definitely on a burned out path.
Yes, you are.
I
didn't expect you to be here tonight.
Well, no, I'm glad I'm here tonight, actually.
I wanted you to be here.
But no, I mean, more, I guess for me, more along the lines of like just life has kind of burnt me out in a lot of ways, especially with kind of this juggling of at-home dad / working type of thing, and just everything that is like. It's been a lot, like, and it's one of those deals where I came to the realization today. I was like, oh, like I'm burnt out. Like that's why I feel like trash. Like, and I finally, once I came to that conclusion, I mentioned that to Corey through a text message and was just like, yep, I'm burnt out. Like between everything going on with work and other things, like it's just, there's a lot going on. And I just don't feel like it's tiring to put a smile on your face when you really don't want to. And so that's a big part of what's going on with me, and just trying to, figure things out. I'm coming up on being back in the workforce for a year, and I'm feeling it. Like it's starting to show in some ways, but I'm trying to be mindful of what's going on so that I can verbalize it to people, because otherwise it's gonna just tear me up. And I long time ago said I would not hold things in and keep them to myself. Like it does no good for nobody.
Right. And the need for healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
Just the ability to look at what you're doing and say, well, that's all I can do. And that's, I mean, for a lot of us, every day, that's a different amount. My 100% today is not what I gave, a week ago. 100% a week ago was 5 times what I did today, but I still gave 100%. And you have to set those healthy boundaries especially with your partner, and most especially with your kids, because you have to give them that example.
Yeah.
And since you're giving them that example, you have to be then doing it to your coworkers or to your superiors, your bosses, whatever you have at work.
Yep.
So that everybody understands, I would love to be able to work 9 days a week, but I can't.
Right.
There's only 7. So something's got to break here. There's no way I can do this.
Yeah.
So that, I think it's fantastic that you're aware of it, because like you said, you have to be able to tell other people. I liken it to cooking, because a lot of us are the main cooks for our families. Yep. And if I cook something that my partner or my family do not like if it's only one picky eater, different thing. But if they're all like, ooh, wow, that was too much salt, way too much salt, but they don't say anything,
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep cooking it that way. Right. And they're going to keep cooking overly salted, whatever.
Right.
And setting that boundary and just saying, I really appreciate that you cooked, Dad, but it was really too salty for me. And I wonder if maybe there was a way, that I could get that changed. Of course, kids are going to be like, oh, Dad, it's too salty. But it's the understanding of how to set that healthy boundary with other people in all things.
Yep.
And be able to say, not necessarily say no, because a lot of us balk at that. I don't want to say no, but just saying, oh, that's either beyond me, or the understanding that that's not in my wheelhouse. That's really not something I don't know how to do that. So I think it's wonderful that you got that idea, and hopefully that you are setting those boundaries with people at work.
That's the thing at work. Setting up boundaries is definitely something that I've had to lean into more because one of the owners, he's a great guy, but has tons of ideas. He shoots from the hip, and it's almost like a shoot first, ask questions later kind of deal. And like right now, there's a project that's taking place at the brewery, and great. Like, I'm all for attracting attention to the brewery and doing different things. Just don't expect me to jump in and be a part of it, because I've got enough other things on my plate that I'm trying to do for the brewery that's not in my wheelhouse, nor is it actually part of like my quote unquote like job description in a way to deal with it. But at the same time, like, I'm more than willing to, do what I can, but not be at that my main focus. And that was the interesting part when this whole thing got started, because it was sort of looking like I was going to be doing this as a main focus. And I'm like, I can't, like, without saying I can't, it was like, I have all of these other cogs going, and all these plates are spinning, and I need to deal with those. And there's another group of people that can take care of the new project. And if I need to help out in little ways, like, I will see what I can do. But this is not my monkey, but I'm in the circus. So that's what it comes down to. And that's been doing pretty well, honestly, because it's one of those deals where it's like our social media marketing director came to me today and was like, hey, I've got this idea for like how to like help with this thing. And I'm like, all right, cool. What do you want to do? And she's like, I just need to know like what dates are open in the brewery so that we're not stepping on toes. And then like all you have to do is basically create the event on Eventbrite. We'll get it pushed out and go from there. And I'm like, perfect. Like, I can do that. That's totally within the realm of things that I can take care of. And so, that's, and that will be a way to actually promote what we're doing. So, but it's taken time to like get those boundaries in place, and also to not feel guilty for saying, hey, I'm not going to be a part of that. I support it. I'm just not going to be a part of it.
Right. This is more than what I have time, energy, or that I've committed to,
right?
Which is a big part of it. My job description is not this. We all want to wear multiple hats. We want to volunteer. We want to help out. We want to be willing, because it makes us feel like better part of the team, but also the thought of maybe that we get, maybe they'll give me a promotion, or maybe I'll, get a pay raise or whatever. You want to be the most helpful person there, but you have to strike that balance between your work life and your home life.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And if you give too much of yourself in the fashion of like, sure, like I can do all these things, and then like you get into it and you're like, oh gosh, that's a lot. What do I do now? And then, it kind of gives this weird look from people, be like, well, you said that you were going to handle it. And it's like, yeah, but I didn't know. And it's like, all right, like that's where that healthy boundary comes in. You got to basically say, nope. Well, someone else needs to figure this out, or there's got to be a different way to go about it. So that's kind of the big thing that's going on. And honestly, it feels good to just talk about it too. But the other thing is just that I think that a lot of us dads get into that, where we see different ways that we can get involved in things, or maybe somebody asks us to do something and it's like, yeah, like I would love to do that. However, like there's a lot going on already.
Yeah.
And so I can't, and you need to be able to say that and not feel guilty about it, because there are other people that can step into, those different roles. If you can do it, great. Like that's perfect. Like if that's going to work for you, but you shouldn't be just like, saying yes to appease the masses and stress your family out and yourself out, because that is not going to benefit anybody in the long run, because, you're going to have negative effects on that. It's going to have negative effects on you. And it's just a recipe for disaster, honestly. And so I think I remember, what was it? Oh, I remember one of my pastors saying one time, like, sometimes you got to say no to say yes.
Okay. I don't get that one.
Like saying no to one opportunity to be able to say yes to
something else. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
Yeah. So like somebody comes and asks you like, hey, can you do this? And be like, nope, because I need to be able to say yes to my kids, my wife, whatever that is, type of deal. And
I think it's important to note, or at least to say, because what you're running into is a very, very common thing for people that work outside the home.
Yeah.
And for us, this is pretty much a new experience for having children that need you, and you're used to being there with them every single day, to being outside the home, working 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever hours outside the home, and the change in the dynamic. And you've talked about this before, but a lot of parents, that's where they start. That's where they stay. I think we've talked about it. I think I'm very fortunate that I could have this set up with my wife and be able to stay home with the kids.
Yeah.
It was a lot of sacrifice and a lot of hard work, but it's something we really focused on and were able to do. Most families aren't.
Right.
And saying that, and then looking at this is their daily now, is that how do I make that balance? How do I give the commitment that my boss needs so that I can hopefully get a raise, so that I can start climbing that ladder and yet maintain what I've got at home?
Right.
Or what I'm developing at home.
Well, and I think that too comes down to like what Keith was talking about in the last episode, where, it works with his schedule, the possibilities of him being able to move into, the things that he wants to do workforce wise. And I think that along with having conversations with whoever you're interviewing with, to be able to just basically lay it down and say like, hey, listen, I still need to have certain flexibilities to be able to take care of my kids or, my family kind of deal, because my wife is still the breadwinner. This is a part-time job type situation for me, or whatever, however that looks like. I want to be able to do this job, but I also need to know that you're going to be able to support me in these other aspects or whatever. And it's better to have that conversation up front than it is to try to have it afterwards. Because your employer is going to be like, well, wait a minute, like, why didn't you tell me that beforehand? Like, I would have been fine with it, just needed to know. Now I feel kind of like I got slighted type of deal on the whole situation. So that's the other big thing. Don't be intimidated or scared to say those things. Especially now, like, I feel like the world in the working world has changed so much that you can say, hey, I'm a parent. Like, I need to know what your stances are from a workforce on families, because if there's somebody that's still behind the times on how they're supporting families, like, you got to weigh that, because that's going to be an obstacle that you might not be able to maneuver. And that might be something that they need to figure out. And you coming in being like, I'll be the revolutionary that'll do it. No, do not try to be. You do not need to be William Wallace in that situation. Yeah. Or I was thinking, what's the other one from Patriot, that kind of deal?
Oh yeah, that Mel Gibson movie.
Yeah, the other one,
absolutely ham with the hatchet, and his kids are, and he's like, don't watch, kids. I'm gonna kill everybody.
Yeah, I'm taking them out.
Oh wow. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. I
My
will
dad's a
wash the
psycho.
dishes, Dad. I
Yeah.
will mow the grass. Yes, I with a scissors, sir. Yes, sir. Please don't
I'm
go
taking
crazy.
out the garbage right now. I promise. Yeah.
I know I've moved away and started a family, but I will come home and take the trash out.
Yeah,
Please.
exactly.
Yeah.
I hear a whistle and I'm immediately like,
Been a
where's my dad?
long time since I've seen that. I don't even think I've seen that whole movie, to be honest. But anyway,
it's been a while.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So
that's basically what's been going on. But I will say that aside from all that, Thanksgiving was really nice with the family. It was good to go home and see mom and dad and my siblings and my grandma and just spend some time with them. Got to do a little Clark Griswold National Lampoon Christmas Vacation lighting stuff with my dad. So
cool.
felt very much like it was just me and dad. So different points, like he was on the roof and he's like, I think these lights are out. And I'm like, you come down, I'll go up and check it out. Like, I don't need 63-year-old Jew falling off the roof. Come down. And so I'd go up and I was checking lights and stuff.
Oh
yeah,
old people.
Yeah, I know, right? But anyway, had fun just doing lights with him. He was like, I typically don't have anybody to help me do these. I'm like, my brother lives in town and his kids are old enough that you could call them and have them come over. They're your grandchildren. Like, this is the stuff that I used to do with
them too.
Yeah, exactly. This is the stuff
healthy boundaries, Dad. Healthy boundaries.
Yeah. I was like, I used to go over and help Grandpa all the time with the lights. Like, I loved it. Like, actually, my dad inherited a good portion of the Christmas lights from my grandpa. So actually I was telling him at one point, I was like, do you have a big wreath in the back that's all lit up? I was like, Grandpa built that, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, are you gonna put that up? He's like, oh, I'm trying to figure that out. I'm like, well, it would fit really nice on the front of my house. And he was like, you're not getting Grandpa's wreath. And I was just like, there's gonna come a time where you're not gonna be able to do anything with that wreath or any of these lights. And that thing's coming to my house. It's probably gonna go up on the front of my house. He wasn't happy about that. He kind of gruffed.
This is how life is a cycle. Come on.
Exactly.
Your dad gives it to you, so your dad gives it to you. Yeah. You gotta pass it on there, Pops.
Speaking of passing it on, so on the way to my parents' place, my daughter was saying that she wanted to learn how to shoot a bow and arrow. And Hezekiah was he's starting to kind of get into music a little bit more and stuff, and he actually has to listen to like this CD that has like his Christmas play stuff on it. And I was like, man, he really needs a CD player. And so I went up in the attic and I found my CD player from circa 1997 that worked when I put batteries in it and a CD in it. And so he got the CD player so that he's been able to listen to his songs for school. And I found the compound bow that I learned how to shoot bow and arrow with for my daughter, and still had the practice arrows with it. So, so I brought that home, and my daughter saw it when I got home, and she was like, "Oh, you brought bow and arrow?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You said you wanted to learn to shoot." She's like, "I did, yes." And so I'm excited to do that with her.
Cool.
Yeah, so that was I tend to grab little things from the house from time to time. I was trying to find all the stuff for the Atari 2600 that's sitting at our house at the house, but all I could find was the actual just console and a couple of games, no joysticks or anything like that. I'm like, dang it, I'm not taking this without all the other stuff, and I can't find it yet. So like, I'll just keep it buried underneath this area. No one else is taking it.
Right. Yeah, just leave it where it's at.
Oh yeah, we grabbed an Etch-a-Sketch, a full-size Etch-a-Sketch too for the kids that was sitting on a shelf. I was like, this is coming home with us as well. The kids were enjoying playing with it at grandma's the entire
This is
time.
my tablet. This is what I grew up.
Right?
This and a light bright. This is what we had. And we liked it that way.
Oh, my dad actually pulled out the light bright and let the kids play with that too. So we had that going.
Yeah.
It was a nostalgic Thanksgiving. Let's just put it that way.
As it should be. I mean, we talked previously about traditions and about making your own traditions and things like that, but having that ability to go to your dad and this is what I did when I was a kid. And granted, a lot of times our kids are going to want to do what we did. I mean, it's not going to be as fun for them. It's
Sure.
just the world has changed. But a lot of the stuff, it's so much fun just to watch them, especially when it's your parents playing with your kids.
Yeah.
You know, and you think, wow, I wish you would have done that with me. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was a bitter moment. I was sorry.
Oh no, I've pointed that out to him before too. Don't you worry. Yeah, because it's like it's 10 o'clock. They're like, it's time for bed. Oh, come on, it's like 10. I'm like, what? Like,
yeah, that's right.
Don't give me that crap. They're like, well, they're at grandma's house. I'm like, no, screw that. Like, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
Oh, we had that conversation actually while we were there as well, because they were pulling that card. We're like, no. It's time for them to go to bed right now. So yeah, that was interesting. But
it's
no,
all the grandpa, right? Grandpa,
yeah, exactly.
Grandpa,
but my kids too, like in the fashion of things that you introduce them to that you like music wise, we've been very much like introducing them to the things that we listen to. Classic rock, you know, stuff from the 90s and the 2000s and that kind of stuff. Hezekiah told me the other day that his favorite artist right now is Michael Jackson, and I'm like, oh, you're so cool, like that's great. Like he really does like enjoy listening to Michael Jackson songs when they come on, and
was an incredible artist. So yeah.
Exactly. And so just stuff like that, or they love the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtracks because there's all kinds of awesome music on there. So they've gotten into that, and that's the fun stuff. Like when we were actually home too, we met up with a good buddy of mine from high school who he runs a podcast where he talks to people about music, and he's brought on different people and stuff like that. And we were kicking around the idea of doing a podcast where we just talk about like how parents introduce their kids to music. What's that look like? And we're still working on it because we were going to meet up and then things didn't work out. But it was just fun to sit in this like really cool like cocktail bar that I would have never had expected would ever come into my like neck of the woods back home, and just sit there, and we drank old fashions and chatted about, you know, what that would look like. But he's started to, you know, take one of his kids to concerts that he likes to go to. And now his son has really gotten into it with different areas. Cool. And so it's just kind of neat to see the two of them bonding in that sort of fashion. And I think that's what's really important. You know, it's like, all right, like how, you know, is there a way for me to connect with my kid like that? Is that something that they would, you know, be interested in? And then not going over the top on like, oh my gosh, like this is so great, but just like play along and, you know, just enjoy the moment. Because I think sometimes parents maybe take it a little bit like, this is like, let's do this and this. And it's like, let it develop. Don't push the envelope too much.
There's so much that you have to teach your child. So much that you have to be responsible for teaching your child, and finding your joy in that.
Right.
And finding your where you can share what you love. A lot of the new dads we hear, they're talking about, I don't know what to do. I'm bored or I'm burnt out. I just sit here at home all day with this crying baby, you know, and whatever it is, take them to do what you love.
Yep. Exactly.
And let them see it. No, maybe they don't want to do it. Maybe they don't want, like, my kids don't want to watch my favorite movie. Fine. That's fine. They can sit there and be quiet anyway. No. But you can,
they can go play off in the corner. It's fine.
Right there under a tree. That's it. In the rain. No, you don't love my movie. It's the best movie ever, you know, but having that ability to share your joy and your hobbies, because that's something they have to learn too. And then, and this is, it's happened with, and we're talking about music. This specifically happened with my oldest, where he has his own music, and we're driving on a road trip. And we're going to Milwaukee or whatever. And I said, what are you listening to? Because he's got his headphones. And I'm like, why don't you just play it on the car speakers? And I'm fine with it. And he's like, I don't think you'll like it. And I said, no, it's possible. There are music, there are songs, there are people I don't like to listen to. Yes. However, if you like it, I don't mind listening.
Right.
And I'm not an aficionado of music in any way. I can barely remember band names. So yeah, let's just put it on.
Right. Let
And
me
he
peek behind the
played
curtain
stuff.
and see what's going
Hey,
on.
it was not my favorite music,
Sure.
but it's, I think 3 different songs I picked up on that, like hour-long trip that I love and that are in my playlist now. And
Nice.
I'm like, yeah, I thanks for sharing that with me, and that he's sharing his music and his hobbies and his the ways that he does things is because I shared mine with him,
Yeah.
or just exposed him. We're driving down the road and we're not going to listen to VeggieTales all the time.
Mhm.
Sorry, I've had it. We're done. We're going to listen to Minecraft songs now for at least 30 minutes, but being able to switch up and then being able to put your music on and go, no, it's Daddy's turn. Daddy's going to listen to his songs. And if you're enjoying it, especially if you're like me and you're singing to it, even if you do it horribly, it just increases their enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see what music my kids end up listening to when they're older, when they're out on their own, because maybe they listen to some of my stuff, and how cool would that be?
Yeah.
Or maybe they teach me stuff, and how cool would that be?
Exactly. It's a nice give and take of it all. So that's well, and you were talking about like just sort of the way parents, communicate with each other and whatnot too. And that whole give and take. I saw where one of the moms in our school, which I actually do have a decent relationship with, she was talking about just how, what was it? Like she mentioned that she saw where, I think it was like on Twitter or somewhere, there was these parents talking about how they don't have a good relationship with their kids to the point where like they can't, talk with them about things. And she's just like, she's like, they can't tell them things like, hey, like go take a shower, or can you take the garbage out, or anything like that. Like there's like such a disconnect between the parent and the child. And she was like, I get it when you're a teenager, like there's always this rub between parents and kids, but she's like, I really hope that like my kids and I don't get to that point. Like we have a really good connection, and I just want to figure out how to stay. And I thought to myself, I'm like, yeah, like I get that. Like there are some parents and kids who just, for whatever reason, like it's just a butting of heads that are taking place. And I really think that a lot of it comes down to influence, like outside of the home, that's really involved in it, and not allowing parents to maybe be able to, maybe they fear they can't say something, like, oh, if I say this is going to upset it, or they don't go about, asking questions in the right way. It's not loving. It's just, they're just like, tell me why this is or whatever, instead of like, hey, I'm curious. Like, you're like, hey, like, I want to understand the music that you're listening to. Like, let me hear it. Like, I'm not going to make fun of you or anything like that. Like, I just want to hear it, type of deal. And I think that sometimes parents, they miss that opportunity to just be like, I just want to be a part of your life and what you're doing, type of thing, And then too, the other part of it is like, yes, like as an adult, there is a part where you're like, I do want to laugh at what you're thinking, but at the same time, like, I know that that's going to tear you down. And so I can't do that. Like, I just need to listen and then have a conversation. And there are still, unfortunately, lots of toxic parents out there who are still dealing with trying to figure that out and need to come out of their proverbial shell and realize that having a conversation and letting your kids, express or say the things they need to, and not getting immediately offended with it, is what's going to help grow your relationship.
Yeah. And realizing that your child is a person,
right?
It's such a hard thing, especially my generation. Previously, we look at Gen X and boomers, and it was like, no, my child is my child, and they do what I tell them to. And the old kids should be seen and not heard. And that whole mindset needs, it has changed for most people, but it needs to be completely eradicated, because you have to look at, like, I was telling Fabian, and he's 17 now. So it's been about 2 years where I've told him, you're not an adult, but you're definitely not a child. And I'm not going to look at you that way. And I'm going to give you responsibilities, and I'm going to give you expectations.
Right.
and I'm going to give you direction wherever I can, but there's more and more things that you have to make the decision. We went to go to the doctor, and I said, you have to answer these questions. You have to say them loudly. You have to say them loud enough for the person to hear you, and you have to say them clearly, which means you have to listen to them. I'm not going to do it after this visit. I'm going to stand here and stare at you until you answer these questions. Because what is your name? What is your date of birth? Who are you here to see? These are not things that I need to do for you anymore. And he hated it. I mean, he really hated it. But it's okay, so you want to wait until I'm not here at all and you're on your own and you have to do this? And he said, I don't think I would even do that. And I'm like, yeah, exactly.
That's it. Yeah.
That's why we have to get you ready for this, because you have to do these things as an adult. And again, it comes back to teaching your kid what they need to be a good person out in the world, but recognizing that they are their own person, that this person may not like my music, this person has their own opinions on what brand of potatoes, I don't know, anything it is, what food are we getting tonight, or what are we making for dinner, or
Coke
how do we cut
Pepsi.
the grass, Coke versus Pepsi. My son is an atheist, and he very maturely came to me and said, Dad, I'm not able to go to mass with you and enjoy it. I really don't like it, and I need to know what to do. And that was the best conversation we had of that whole year, with him looking at me as a fellow person and saying, these are the things that I need. This is my healthy boundary. Right.
Yeah.
And me able to respond and not to be, no, you're going every day. Oh no, we're going to go twice now. And that whole mindset coming down to, and I read something this week, that something that you really shouldn't do to your kids is to tell them, or expect them to be grateful for room and board, basically, for a place to live and food and clothing. Well, I give you all this stuff, you should be grateful for that. No, that's your job as a parent. That's what you're required to do. And if your kid isn't grateful for it, your kid isn't grateful for it, right? It's an understanding of this person. And granted, if they're 5, it's a lot easier to overlook it. But this person has their own thoughts and opinions, and they should be recognized, maybe not followed. We should have ice cream for breakfast every day this week. No, sorry, buddy, we're not going to do that.
Right.
But the understanding that I see why you said it, I know where you're at, and I appreciate that, even though we're not going to do it, either they're 5 or 15 or 25, whatever age it is, you shouldn't have ice cream for breakfast every day.
Yeah. This all falls into
respect.
This all falls into the realm of what my wife and I have always said, because we always get people like, how is it that your kids, like, you get them to do all these things or whatever? Like, well, one, like, they are children. Yes. However, we are raising adults. Mm-hmm. Yes, they are children. However, we treat them with the respect and understanding that these are things that they are going to take with them into adulthood. Mm-hmm. And so, just different things, everything from talking baby talk. We didn't do any of that with the kids, to how we discuss topics now and talk about different things. And it's like, hey, like, you need to know how to do the laundry. You need to know how to fold your clothes and do these cleaning things. Not because I want you to do them. It's because you yourself are going to need to do these things and have to do these things when you leave the house and have your own life. And it's those kind of conversations, especially from the standpoint of, like, what you were talking about, like, I don't, you don't have to be able to say, like, you should feel grateful that you have this house. It's like, you should understand that, like, these are things that mom and I don't want to do either, but we need to do them. We have to do them because we're adults, and that's part of being an adult, and it's part of adulting. Adulting sucks, but we all do it. We all do it. Like, there's more good than bad that comes out of it.
And telling them to pick up the other person's trash, or something, like, pick those socks up. Well, those aren't mine. Cool. They're not mine either.
Right.
But I have washed your clothes every day since you were born 9 years ago. I've washed everything you've worn. none of that's mine. And
Yeah.
this isn't I'm a parent, I have to do this. We're a community, we're a family. We're all building this household, this family. We're helping this tree grow. And your part is going to be pick up your brother's stinky socks and put them in the hamper.
Yeah.
I don't care if they're yours or not.
Yep.
You know?
Well, that's like I went grocery shopping today, and Hezekiah and Ruby are both very capable of, like, if I forgot something, I can send them to go get it in another aisle or whatever. And I was like,
Nice.
hey, I'm gonna grab these hot dogs. Would you go get some hot dog buns? And I didn't say who to go get them. I just said, would you go grab some hot dog buns? Which I figured they probably would go, which they did. And then Ruby came back and she had tears in her eyes, and I'm like, oh, here we go. This will be fun. What's about to happen here? And I was like, hey, what's wrong? And she's like, well, Hezekiah said I didn't really need to come with him, and basically then said I didn't want you to come with me. And then, like, so she came back, and so we stood there, waited the cart. He came back and he's all like, oh, I got the hot dog buns. And I'm like, hey buddy, thanks for getting me the hot dog buns. I'm like, can you explain to me why it is that Ruby is crying? And we went through this whole topic of what was going on. And I said, now, if she had said that to you, how would you feel? Well, I wouldn't feel very good about it. I was like, so you're completely negating the whole treat others as you would like to be treated metaphor, like that whole lifestyle that we've taught. And he's like, well, and I was like, exactly. Like, you wouldn't want to be treated that way. You did this. I was like, that doesn't make you feel good. That didn't make her feel good, right? He's like, yeah. I'm like, do you think that is the way to go about that next time? He's like, no. I'm like, all right, like, bank that, like,
right.
And I was like,
yeah.
And then I was like, on top of that, like, they usually ask for like a Kinder egg, like when we're going through checkout. I'm like, also just know, I was like, do not ask for any special anything, because it is not going to be granted to you because of your attitude towards the situation. He's like, oh, okay. So, and then Ruby, being the smart cookie that she is, as the younger one, was like, at one point she was like, can I have a Kinder egg? And I'm like, nope, unfortunately, because of the actions of your brother, I was like, we're not going to do Kinder eggs, because, like, it's just not going to help the situation at all. And so, yeah. And she was like, okay, like, she was totally fine with it. But it was just, that was the conversation that happened. They were great. Other than that, they helped me with shopping. It was awesome. We were in and out of there within a decent amount of time. But I was just like, by golly, kid, like, just.
And I know you have told them this.
Oh yeah,
you have established this is how we live. I have told you this 100 times, and yet you get out of my sight and immediately go, get away from me, little one. I don't need you here, and crush your sister.
He's a very sensitive kid, but then you get him where he's not around it and he tries to be the mean kid. I'm like, you don't like it when people are mean to you. Why do you think it's okay to be mean to others? I'm like, that is not what we do here. So yeah, it was just like, all right, always a teaching moment waiting to happen.
Right. Yeah. And get a sign so you don't have to wear your voice out.
Right.
No I have a sign that says, why is this wet? Why?
You just hand it to them, or do you hold it up?
I hold it up like Wile E. Coyote. Why is this wet? And they're like, no, there's no, whatever reason that you got it wet, dry it.
Somebody was bringing you coffee. That's what I understand.
There is a trail of dried coffee drops all the way up into the kitchen. I went,
I heard you talking about that.
I'm going to have to clean the entire staircase.
Why does it
like,
smell like
not just sweep it, but clean it. Yeah, right. Yeah. Why does it? What's that smell? What's that smell? What is that smell? Yeah.
What does it smell like? A coffee shop in here.
But I love it. And he's developing the ability to come down the stairs without spilling coffee. You have to, to make a few mistakes before you figure it out. It's exactly what should be happening.
There are earthquakes in Wisconsin, and I just spill. It always happens when I'm bringing you the coffee.
Just, excuse me, just happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting my kids cold.
Oh no! Oh no! Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a good place
Of
to stop
course.
anyway. So it's been great catching
Yeah.
up and everything.
We didn't even talk about half of them. We got so much to talk about that
it's all
for
good.
next week.
We'll get into it for
Holidays,
next week.
Festival of Lights. Yeah, let's talk about this next week.
It's all good. We'll talk about more next week. But
all right, man.
yeah, we're doing well on this road to the end of 2023. So I think we're gonna definitely hit 100 and we're gonna definitely hit 150 episodes for this year. So total for the time span. So that's gonna be exciting.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks to everybody who's listening, and we will talk to you all next week.
Good night, everybody.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.